Breaking news from Rome, Pope Benedict XVI announced he is resigning and will step down at the end of the month. The 85-year-old pontiff cited health reasons, saying he no longer had the mental and physical strength to cope with the demands of the ministry. He will be the first pope to resign since the 15th century. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the News Hub. I'm Kelsey Hubbard. The news of Pope Benedict's resignation shocked many around the world, and we go straight to Rome, where WSJ's bureau chief Alessandra Gallini joins me. Good morning.
Hi.
So obviously huge surprising news this morning out of Rome, out of the Vatican. Tell us what you're hearing from there.
Well, basically, the Pope announced this morning in a speech to cardinals in Latin that he was going to step down because his strength has deteriorated to such an extent for age reasons that he feels he can't go on in the top job of leading the world's Catholics.
And he cited his health reasons and his advanced age, although we know most popes do die and then they are replaced through the conclave process. Why is he deciding to take himself out of that job at this point instead of living it out?
Well, there's lots of speculation, obviously, but from what he said in his speech and from what his advisors are telling us, he just feels that he can't go on for age reasons. He said that for this job, which is an important job, you need to be of sound mind and body, basically. And he said that he feels that his body is not up to it any longer. Now, of course, this hasn't happened in centuries. The Pope's spokesman said that it hadn't happened in close to 700 years. It may not actually be that long, but in any case, it's a long time. So this opens up really a process that we haven't seen in a long while. It also means that the Pope who has resigned is going to be around. I mean, he's going to be able to write and speak his mind, even though he's going to go into a life of prayer, is what his spokesman said. But he's still going to be around and he's still going to be writing while there is a new Pope. I mean, that's quite an unusual situation.
Certainly. Let's take a listen to some of the statement from the Pope this morning. There it is. We have, after having repeatedly examined my conscience before God, I have come to the certainty that my strengths, due to an advanced age, are no longer suited to an adequate exercise of the patrine ministry. So there you have it, some statement from the Pope this morning. And Alessandra, is there any mention or any talk in Rome this morning about the pressures that he was under, especially the continuing sex scandal that continued to plague the Catholic Church, and how that might have worn on him and perhaps played any role in this?
The Pope, this Pope was praised for because he's a very well-known theologian. So he was praised for his writings and his theology. But his papacy was one that was marked by controversy. As you said, there was the sex abuse scandal, which came out during his time, and he had to take measures, stricter measures to defrock priests and to make sure that that sexual abuse wouldn't happen again around the world. He also most recently faced a document leaking scandal that unveiled infighting among his cardinals, and surely that weighed on him as well. So some people are saying that it's not just his health, let's say, but that it has been quite a difficult 8 years.
All right, Alessandra Gallini from Rome this morning, thank you so much. We are looking at live pictures there of the Vatican. We thank you so much for joining us this morning. We now want to bring in Thomas Groom, professor of theology and religious education at Boston College. He's also the author of the book, What Makes Us Catholic. Thomas, thanks so much for joining us here this morning.
Kelsey. Thank you.
So tell us your reaction to this shocking news this morning.
Well, it is shocking. First of all, Kelsey, the rumors were not out there. It comes as a total surprise. I'm basically in great admiration of Pope Benedict for doing this. I think it brings the papacy into the 21st century. Many people had thought that Pope John Paul II of happy memory would have resigned toward the end of his papacy when he was in such poor health, but he stayed in office. So in a sense, I think this is a very positive move, and I admire Benedict for making it.
And there is precedent here, isn't there?
Well, you've got to go back quite a ways. And in fact, I think the real precedent is 1294, when Pope Celestine V resigned. Now, Pope Gregory XII resigned in 1415, but under some duress. to put an end to, there were 3 rival claimants to the papacy at the time. And so, but the last time somebody voluntarily left the papacy was about 1294. So it's been quite a stretch since anybody did this. And yet there is provision for it in the canon law of the Church, of course. So Benedict is moving with totally appropriate mode.
And of course, given these unusual circumstances, we won't have the traditional mourning period that would ensue after a pope who would die. And so what do you know about the conclave process? When will that begin? What are the next steps here?
Well, as soon as they can get it together, they'll begin it, I'm sure, because it seems that they intend to have a new pope for Easter, so they need to move along. I mean, they will be put in conclave, which literally means under the key. In other words, they'll be locked in, and they'll meet in the Sistine Chapel, and they'll have to come up with a new pope before they can leave there. So it's a fun process. It's an ancient process. I mean, there's no office in the world with such continuity incomparable to the papacy. I mean, it's 2,000 years, and for the last more than 1,000 years, they've had the same or a similar process of choosing the pope, where the cardinals of the world meet in conclave and choose a successor. The hope, of course, is that Benedict will now indeed exit stage and won't in any way try to influence the choosing of his successor or the actions of his successor. He's a man of real integrity. I would presume that he won't do that he'll steer clear now, that he will genuinely resign.
And speaking of possible successors, any contenders that we know of, or any regions of the world that we think the new pope may come from?
Well, the pundits will certainly get moving. I doubt very much if it'll be an Italian pope or even a European pope, which means it could well be an African pope, a South American pope, an Asian pope. So I think we're in for a fun ride.
And Thomas, quickly, what challenges might he inherit or face in office?
I think there are tremendous divisions in the Catholic community at this time. I mean, he has to be a bridge builder, a pontifex. The pontiff, it comes from the Latin to build bridges. Hopefully it'll be a bridge builder, because there are theological divides. There are people in the Catholic Church who would greatly embrace the spirit of the Second Vatican Council, only to see that spirit recede and be challenged and even regressed. And so there's a lot of theological and spiritual divisions in the Church. There's a whole outreach to Christians of other traditions, Protestant Christians, Eastern Orthodox Christians, and so on, to people of other faiths, indeed to all people of goodwill. So we need, it's a challenging position. Of course, it's relevant and significant not only for Catholics, but for the whole world. The papacy, the Pope is an important diplomat and among nations and what have you. So it's exciting. I think it offers the possibility of a new moment for the Catholic Church and indeed for the world.
Well, I'm glad you're excited, and I'm sure it's interesting news to a lot of people who are trying to make sense of it this morning. So thank you so much for giving us some insight. We appreciate it.